Hi everyone, this is Rachel, and I'm doing my predictive legal research presentation. And the jurisdiction that I chose is West Virginia. So the facts are Jason dares Mark to punch him, Mark refuses, Jason grabs Mark's wrist and yanks Mark's arm towards Jason's stomach. Mark pulls his arm away and punches Jason in the face and breaks Jason's jaw and knocks out his teeth. So Jason sues Mark for assault. So the question that needs to be answered is, will the judge grant a motion to dismiss the lawsuit? So heading over to Westlaw, the first thing that I search for is the assault statute. It says that assault is any person who unlawfully attempts to commit a violent injury to the person of another or unlawfully commits an act that places another in reasonable apprehension of immediately receiving a violent injury. So the second thing that I looked up is the definition of consent. And it states that consent means giving permission or an affirmative reply to a request, whether the consent is written or via some audio recorded method. So now going over to the cases, the first case that I found is Strawn versus Ingram, and I use the terms and connectors assault/P consent. So assault and consent in the same paragraph. So in Strawn versus Ingram, it states that when two persons voluntarily fight, either can recover his actual damages of the other. The mutuality of the combat may be considered by the jury to preclude or mitigate punitive damages, but not to reduce actual damages. And it also states that the rule of law is therefore clear and unquestionable that consent to an assault is no justification. Where a combat involves a breach of the peace, the mutual consent of the parties thereto is generally regarded as unlawful and as not depriving the injured party, or for that matter, each injured party, from recovering damages for injuries received from the unlawful acts of the other. So the next case that I used is Royer versus Belcher, and I used the same terms and connectors, assault/P consent. So in this case, the defendant was informed by his wife of an insulting remark reported to have been made about the plaintiff. There was a fight that ensued. It consisted of 2 rounds. During the first round, the defendant was the sole aggressor, striking the plaintiff several times in the face with his fist. And then by the time that the plaintiff reached the top of the stairs, he was bleeding profusely. It says that the defendant was entirely willing to continue the fray. When he saw the plaintiff returning, he asked, "Do you want some more?" The plaintiff answered in the affirmative, and the defendant, according to his own testimony, proceeded to give him some more. In the second round, the plaintiff received more cuts and bruises, and as a result of this encounter, the plaintiff's clothing was badly soiled, his glasses were lost, and his physical injuries were such as to render necessary the attention of a physician and hospital treatment. And so this court held that where the fight is by mutual consent, the mere fact that one of the parties seeks his opponent will not prevent him from recovering for injuries received therein. And the last case that I found is Collins Collins versus Bennett, and I use the terms and connectors fight/P consent. And in Collins versus Bennett, the court held that the plaintiff was not entitled to instruction that in case of mutual combat, and mutual combat just means when when two people mutually agree to fight, either party may be held responsible and be required to pay damages irrespective of which party struck first blow. So back to the question, will the judge grant a motion to dismiss the lawsuit? I came to the conclusion that no, the court would likely deny the motion to dismiss and Mark must go to trial. And I think my research backs that up pretty well. And because right here, in the first case I showed you, it says that consent to an assault is no justification, and basically that you can be still held accountable even though that there is consent given.